I'm Dave, I'm today's duty pilot, and this is today's nominated duty aircraft. You join us inside the hangar here at Maze Lankesh at the Hems base, and as you can probably see, we've got two airframes fitting very nicely into the hangar. At the front of the hangar, there's the primary duty aircraft, which I'm shortly going to tow out onto the helipad ready for action. But the benefit of having this second aircraft here is it's a dedicated spare. So should we have any technical issues or any scheduled maintenance with our primary aircraft, we can very quickly transfer all of the medical kit across into the second aircraft, swap them over on the helipad, and hey presto, we're ready to go with the minimum amount of downtime. So really, at the start of the pilot shift, we commenced duty at 7 o'clock this morning. We'll do a very quick cursory check of the weather should we get any early calls, but primarily our focus is on making sure that the aircraft is fully serviceable and ready for action at short notice. So what we'll do is the pilot will leave the medical team behind in the operationals room. They'll be preparing their medical kit. The pilot will come down to the hangar, open up the hangar, turn on the lights if required, particularly in the winter time, and then very much our focus will be doing a full and thorough pre-flight check of the aircraft to make sure that there's no damage that has occurred overnight and that everything is functioning as it should be. Really what we would do is, as a general guide, we would start at the nose of the aircraft, work our way around in either a clockwise or an anti-clockwise direction, checking from top to bottom, opening up various panels such as our engine bays where we can check the condition of the engines, we can check the engine oil levels. Then we'd actually climb up the side of the aircraft. We have some steps that pop out like so and grab handles. The pilot will actually climb up these steps, being very careful not to fall, of course, and we will inspect the main rotor head being hugely important to the safe flight of the aircraft, as you can imagine. So really, I'm not going to go too in-depth into it, but just to give you a flavor, we'll make our way along the aircraft. All of these panels open up. You can see these black latches. We'll open up these panels. We'll inspect inside, check the engines, check the engine bays, making our way down. This is the exhaust port of the engine where the hot exhaust gases exit. So there's two engines on this aircraft. There's one on the left-hand side behind this panel, one on the right-hand side. So you'll see there are two exhaust ports. Exhaust gas temperature somewhere in the region of 600-700 degrees coming out the back of this. So it's one of those hazards that you have to bear in mind when you're operating in and around helicopters that are running. We'll work our way down along the tail. Again, this is just a very cursory overview. We would do this more in depth ourselves. Inspecting all of the surfaces, our navigational lights, and then down to another really important piece of flying controls. You've got the tail rotor. So if I bring you around this side, you'll see the tail rotor blades themselves. So when the aircraft is actually up and running, the main rotor blades are turning. They generate a torque force. So if you did not have a tail rotor on the aircraft, essentially what would happen, the fuselage of the aircraft would just start to spin underneath the main rotor. So the whole purpose of the tail rotor is to provide an anti-torque effect. It prevents the airframe from spinning underneath the main rotor blades. So it's very important, obviously, that we have a functioning tail rotor. Each of these tail rotor blades we inspect for any damage. This acts like a fan. It essentially sucks air in one side, blows air out the other. So sometimes we might pick up little bits of debris if we're landing at particular sites that might have debris. These blades turning at thousands of RPM can actually pick up damage, and it's really important that the efficiency of the blades is maintained. As you can see, even just from flying the previous day where we landed at Clocky Golf Course, we've picked up a little bit of grass debris. So at the end of this walk around, I'm going to go back and I'm going to clean the leading edge of each of those blades just to maintain their efficiency. Pretty much the right-hand side is a mirror image of the left-hand side. So as I've already mentioned, we've two engines. So this is the number 2 engine bay. So likewise, I'll open up the panels, inspect the engine, check the fuel lines that there's no leaks, check the oil levels, oil lines. Sometimes if with the vibrations in the aircraft, perhaps some of those lines can sort of work their way loose and cause some leaks. So we'll inspect in there. Behind this smaller square panel is where our battery bay is. I can open it up. It's relatively easy to show you inside. Very similar to your car battery in terms of size. I think your standard car battery is a 12-volt battery. In this aircraft, it's a 24-volt battery. And really what the primary function of this battery does, it provides the electrical power to get the engines up and running. Once the engines are up and running, just like in your car, there's an alternator, generator, and then that provides all of the electrical power that's required for the aircraft, and particularly the instruments. So that's where the battery is located. And then continuing around the side of the aircraft, you can see the steps are replicated in the grab handles, so we can climb up either side of the aircraft to inspect the main rotor head, the various oil filters that are located up on top of there. The sliding door, a mirror image of the left-hand side, and then on the right-hand side is the pilot's entry. So if you want to join me inside the cockpit, we can take a little look around.